From Neural Newscast, this is Model Behavior, AI-focused news and analysis on the models shaping our world.
I am Nina Park. Welcome to Model Behavior. Today is June 11th, 2026, and we are examining how the latest generation of AI systems is being architected and deployed in high-stakes professional environments. We are looking at a pivot point where simple text generation is giving way to complex agency and deep integration with existing global infrastructure. Our focus today is on the technical and ethical boundaries being pushed by both established labs and industry pioneers.
I am Thatcher Collins. We have been tracking a significant week for frontier models, characterized by a major release from Anthropic and a notable philosophical shift in research circles. We are seeing a new class of models emerge. But at the same time, prominent figures are questioning if we have already reached the functional ceiling of the current large language model paradigm. It is a dense day for both policy and product news, as we look at how these systems are fundamentally changing.
Let us start with the news from Anthropic. Yesterday, the company officially launched Claude Fable 5. This release is particularly noteworthy because it represents the first publicly available model from their new Mythos class of architectures. For quite some time, Claude Opus served as their premier offering for enterprise-grade reasoning. However, Fable 5 reportedly surpasses Opus in nearly every internal and external benchmark, specifically in core analytical reasoning, where it achieved an accuracy rate exceeding 90% on graduate-level evaluations.
The capabilities of this Mythos class have been a point of intense speculation for months, Nina. Anthropic actually debuted the architecture back in April through a restricted program known as Project Glasswing. However, they initially limited access to a handful of strategic partners, including Apple and NVIDIA. The internal concern was that the model's reasoning capabilities were so advanced that it posed a safety risk, specifically regarding the discovery of novel software vulnerabilities or even assisting in sophisticated biological research.
That extreme caution resulted in a specific policy that caused quite a stir within the developer community. When Fable 5 was first introduced into the testing phase, Anthropic was allegedly degrading the performance of the model for certain users without notification. If a system prompt was identified as being related to frontier model development or AI research, the system would silently fall back to a less capable model. Essentially, they were throttle limiting the intelligence of the model based on the agent's intent to protect their competitive edge.
Developers were certainly frustrated when those details surfaced. Business Insider recently reported that many in the industry viewed this not as a strategic move to prevent competitors from using Claude to build better rival systems. It felt less like a safeguard and more like a competitive barrier disguised as corporate responsibility. Thatcher, there has been a formal response from Anthropic regarding this. What is the official stance now that the model has been fully released to the public?
They have moved toward a policy of greater transparency. Anthropic issued a formal statement on Wednesday apologizing for what they described as the wrong trade-off between safety and user experience. Going forward, Fable 5 will clearly indicate when a request is being refused or rerouted. If a request is flagged, it will visibly fall back to a specialized version of Opus 4.8, and the API response will include an explicit reason for that fallback. It is a necessary step toward transparency over silent mediation.
It is a quick admission of a mistake, which is rare in this industry. But even with that controversy, the performance gains are quite striking. Early reports suggest that Fable 5 is approximately 25 to 30% faster than Opus when handling complex multi-step tasks. However, that performance comes with a significant price tag. Pricing is now set at $10 per million tokens for input and $50 per million tokens for output. That is exactly double the current cost of the Opus model, which remains available.
A 100% increase in API costs suggests that Anthropic views Fable 5 as a highly specialized tool for high-value reasoning. It forces developers to make a difficult calculation. Is a 10% increase in accuracy worth doubling their operational expenses? For many standard automation tasks, Anthropic is actually suggesting that Fable 5 might be overkill, and that most users should remain on the standard Claude family for their daily production needs, while saving the Mythos class for specialized research.
Well, Anthropic continues to push the boundaries of current scaling laws. Yann LeCun is making a very different argument. LeCun, who previously served as the chief AI scientist at Meta, is currently spearheading a $1 billion initiative to find a successor to the large language model. He is advocating for something called JEPA, or Joint Embedding Predictive Architecture. He has become increasingly vocal, recently describing current LLM technology as a technological dead end that will never reach human-level reasoning or true world understanding.
That is an incredibly bold statement to make when the entire industry is currently centered on transformer-based language models. Thatcher, could you unpack the technical reasoning behind his skepticism? Why does he believe that models like GPT or the Claude series are fundamentally limited despite the impressive capabilities we are seeing today?
The core of his argument, Nina, is that large language models are essentially sophisticated statistical engines. They excel at predicting the next word in a sequence based on patterns, but they lack a fundamental understanding of the physical world or the laws of causality. This is why we see persistent hallucinations. The models lack grounded knowledge. JEPA is designed to learn more like a human infant by observing vast amounts of raw video data to build abstract representations of physical reality, rather than just processing strings of text.
So, rather than just reading the entire internet, the JEPA architecture is designed to watch and learn from the world. Reports from Geeky Gadgets suggest that this architecture is highly modular, consisting of 6 specific components, including a perception module and a world model. This design is specifically intended to create an artificial intelligence that can plan and simulate actions in dynamic environments. That is a capability that current language models struggle with because they cannot easily model physical consequences or spatial relationships.
That is exactly the point. In this architecture, the world model simulates and predicts future events, while a separate cost module evaluates those potential actions for their efficiency and safety. Because it is modular, JEPA can theoretically adapt to new tasks with very little retraining. This is a contrast to the massive, expensive recomputes required for large language models. The ultimate goal here is to achieve true intelligence by building a system with grounded concepts of space, time, and movement, rather than just linguistic probabilities.
It is a massive philosophical shift in how we approach machine intelligence, highlighting the tension between scaling what works well now and inventing what might work better later. While that research continues, product-focused companies are moving quickly to make current models more active participants in the economy. Visa recently announced a major collaboration with OpenAI that moves us closer to a world of truly autonomous financial agents, capable of complex decision-making.
This is a significant step for product integration. Visa announced on Wednesday that they have embedded their payment network infrastructure directly into the ChatGPT environment. This is not just a shopping assistant that provides links to products. This integration allows AI agents to independently execute and complete financial transactions on behalf of an agent. It has the authority to authorize and pay for items at any merchant worldwide that accepts Visa payments, without requiring the agent to leave the interface.
I recall that OpenAI attempted a similar feature previously under the name Instant Checkout, which was retired back in March. That system was often prone to errors and carried a 4% merchant fee that proved to be a barrier for most retailers. Thatcher, how does this new collaboration with Visa address those previous failures? What makes this version more viable for broad commercial use and long-term adoption?
The difference lies in the underlying financial infrastructure. Visa's Jack Forrestel noted that they are utilizing a modified tokenization framework called Visa Intelligent Commerce. This allows for significantly better data capture and enhanced fraud monitoring. They have also integrated strict guardrails, such as user-defined spending limits and mandatory approval steps for high-value items. Initially, the agent will send a push notification for the human to approve the final purchase, until a high level of trust and accuracy is established through repeated interactions.
Establishing that trust is the primary challenge. If an autonomous agent purchases the wrong item or exceeds a budget, the question of liability becomes very complex. Visa has stated they will apply the same dispute and fraud rules as they do for regular transactions, but they are adding a verification layer to ensure that the consumer's intent was clearly expressed to the AI. We are seeing AI transition from an advisory role into an active, authorized participant in our daily economy with real fiscal responsibility.
This transition also changes the requirements for businesses to be discovered by these systems. If an AI agent is the one doing the shopping, traditional search engine optimization might become obsolete. We are seeing a shift toward what many are calling entity SEO, or generative engine optimization. These AI systems do not just look for keywords, they look for verifiable entities and established reputations that they can trust before making a recommendation or a purchase on behalf of their users.
This was a major point of discussion in a recent series of articles on Medium. For a model like Claude or ChatGPT to recommend a specific business to an agent, it needs to understand exactly what that entity is, what its specific expertise involves, and whether that information is consistent across multiple digital sources. Technical tools like structured data and schema markup are becoming the new battleground for digital visibility. If a model cannot parse your business data, your business effectively does not exist to an AI agent.
That brings us to how these specialized agents are being constructed for more complex fields, specifically in finance. At the recent ODSC AI East conference, the team from Anthropic provided a detailed look at moving beyond simple prompt chaining toward what they call agentic loops. In high-stakes environments like investment banking or wealth management, you cannot have a model simply guessing at an earnings report or a financial model. It requires a much more disciplined and verifiable approach to data handling.
The technical requirements for those loops are quite intense, Thatcher. During the presentation, they highlighted the use of the Model Context Protocol to integrate very different data sources, such as S&P Global or FactSet, directly into the model's reasoning process. These agents are no longer just summarizing existing text. They are performing deep dive research, updating complex spreadsheets, and self-verifying their own outputs against predefined success criteria before any information is ever presented to a human analyst for final review.
They also introduced a concept called context compaction. Even with the very large context windows available in models like Claude Fable 5, the raw output from various tools can quickly overwhelm the system's memory. Developers are now teaching agents to maintain their own internal state by taking structured notes and summarizing their own progress as they work. This allows the agent to maintain continuity and focus on tasks that might take several hours or involve thousands of individual data points without losing the core objective.
It really emphasizes that the next phase of the AI industry is not just about building larger models, but about creating more disciplined architectures and ensuring better integration with established economic systems, like Visa. Whether the path forward is through the Mythos class of language models or a JEPA-style world model, the focus is clearly shifting toward meaningful agency and measurable real-world impact in the professional sphere. We are watching the infrastructure of the next decade being built in real time.
I agree, Nina. We are seeing the end of the simple chatbot era and the beginning of the era of autonomous, professional-grade tools. This represents a fundamental change in our relationship with software and how work is performed across every sector of the economy. Thank you for this conversation today. It has been an illuminating look at where the industry is headed.
Thank you for listening to Model Behavior, a Neural Newscast editorial segment. mb.neuralnewscast.com. Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com.
This has been Model Behavior on Neural Newscast, examining the systems behind the story